Mary Stanley, Cultural Autobiography. I was born and raised in Lake Jackson, Texas, about 60 miles south of Houston on the Gulf Coast. My family consists of my mother and father, who both grew up around the corner from each other in Lake Jackson, and one older male sibling.
I would not consider myself religious. I have attended various churches, but all of them were of Christian faith. I do not feel as if I ever truly assimilated to church culture, and that is something that I've always felt shame about. I believe this shame is due to the strong integration of religious faith and identity in the community in which I grew up in.
My hometown is very interesting because it was actually created and founded by a chemical company. Dow Chemical created Lake Jackson, Texas to house its employees, which were a very homogenous grouping of blue collar, middle class, white families. My mother and father's families both arrived in Lake Jackson to work for Dow Chemical, and the vast majority of my hometown was all employed by the same company, which created a very interesting social dynamic. My childhood was very homogeneous in nature. My peers looked, talked, and behaved like me. I believe this shaped my narrow worldview and ultimately made me unaware of many cultural and social issues in the world. The majority of my extended family resides in Lake Jackson. We are a mixture of Native American, French, Cajun, English, and Irish, but do not have ties to those cultures. I would say we practice American traditions. As an educator, I believe that teaching equality is essential. My culture reinforced stereotypical gender norms, and I was raised to be a traditional 50s housewife. I believe this is what led me to teaching and ultimately my role as a stay-at-home mother. In my childhood, women were either housewives, teachers, or nurses. If I had been raised in a more diverse setting, I believe I may have sought out different career opportunities. I was married in 2014 and moved to Houston, a much larger, diverse, urban part of Texas. Teaching at Jefferson and Dogan Elementary allowed me to work with a large population of recent immigrants and African American students, both through the dual language program and working to become a global campus. I learned a lot about language acquisition, the social transition of a recent immigrant, and the role that culture can play in a child's life when they're not the dominant culture. Before marrying my husband, I'd only been on one airplane ride, and my experiences were limited to Texas, Louisiana, and Florida. So I had never really left the South or been up north. Since then, we've spent a lot of time following the Aggies around the country and visiting various places like New York, California, and everything in between. These experiences have allowed me to see a lot of different cultures and to meet a lot of diverse people, and I believe it has made me more open-minded. My first experiences traveling abroad were on my honeymoon, where we went to Milan, followed by Trevezzo on Lake Como, and eventually London. I did not experience any language or cultural barriers while there. I felt as if I were welcomed and even catered to. I consider my regional speech to be a mixture of plantation Southern and upland Southern dialects. Rather than vowel patterns or specific patterns of speech, the most easily recognizable portion of my Southern dialect would be word choice, such as y'all or howdy.